psychiatric hospital, and my shift was 11 at night to 7 in the morning. And I did that midnight, the third shift for about 3 years, and my roommate that I was with used to say, oh, no. They let him out at 7. He had to report back at 11. Before we get started, let's just take a moment. Let me do a little centering prayer so we're all on the same page. And so I can be here and you can be here and we can just live in love and laughter and the grace of God. So if you would close your eyes and just let my words be your words. And just know that I'm really saying this for me more than for you, because I want to just make sure that the conduit is open. And so I'm so thankful and so grateful to be here to be with this incredible group of people in this incredible place on this unbelievable day. And I want to feel like I'm a channel, like I'm opening a gate and allowing the energy of the higher power to flow through me and provide this smorgasbord of tidbits and information of which you can choose any little piece or all of it or none of it, it doesn't matter. But I want to feel like I'm just a free conduit and expressing the love that I feel. And so I'm so thankful to have that ability and to be here. And with these words, I send them off into the universe and know that they're heard and that they will be coming back to me. And so with that, I say amen. So thank you. So my name is Longmire, and I fancy myself a motivational speaker, inspirational speaker, a platform presenter and performer. And I've been doing a lot of talks at my home church is Unity Golden Valley. Reverend Pat Williamson is the lead minister there. And I've been doing a lot of talks at a lot of the churches around the Twin Cities, and I've been here before. I've been here a year and a half ago or so. And by the way, just so we're all on the same page, I also want to acknowledge, are we on? Yep. I also want to acknowledge you, because I know that there are thousands of you out there who are watching this YouTube video right now. And I know you can't see this right now, but there's 1,500 people in this room right now who are listening to this incredible message. So please come down to Unity in Eau Claire, the spiritual center here, and you can be a part of this magnificent group as well. So I'm glad you're here. So I want to start with a little joke. I always like to kind of loosen things up. There was a big church, there was a minister, and there was a song leader, choir leader. And the minister and the song leader did not get along. There was a lot of contention. They were kind of backbiting between the two of them, and there was a lot of subversion and petty, passive-aggressive stuff. They didn't like each other at all. And it started to bubble to the surface. The minister gave a sermon, and the sermon that he gave was having us be a giver. He wanted to talk about being a giver. Well, the song leader decided to lead the church in the song, "Jesus Paid It All." So the next Sunday, the minister gave a talk on the willingness to change. The willingness to change. The song leader? Why, she led the congregation in the song, "I Shall Not Be Moved." The Sunday after that, the minister gave a talk on gossiping and how it's not a good thing to gossip. The song leader led the congregation in, "I love to tell the story." The minister was so upset and so frustrated, he was tired and sick of this stuff. He said, "I quit, I'm resigning, I'm out of here. The Lord Jesus brought me to this church, and the Lord Jesus is going to take me away." The song leader that Sunday led the congregation in the song, "Oh, what a friend we have in Jesus." Well, I don't know about you all, but I'm a techno, I'm a Luddite. Anybody know what a Luddite is? Yeah. Okay, I'm a Luddite. A Luddite is somebody who doesn't know anything about technology. So Google is my friend. I love to Google things. So I Googled, and by the way, if anybody ever asks you, and I know we've all had this experience, I've had this experience with this crazy thing called New Thought. When you talk to people who are not New Thought, but who are pretty conventional, and they say, well, is it a Christian church? Or they say, what kind of a church is that? And even to this day, I've been involved in New Thought for 35 years. I'm satisfied. I don't know how to answer it really well. Is it Christian? I had one friend of mine who used to say, well, yes, and more. And another response is, well, we're Christian like Jesus was Christian. And as you all know, Jesus wasn't Christian. Jesus was Jesus. Jesus was a guy who had all these incredible ideas. The Google machine is the best answer. Google, just tell them to Google New Thought. That's it. Google New, N-E-W-T-H-O-U-G-H-T, New Thought. Here's what it says. New Thought holds that infinite intelligence, or God, is everywhere. Spirit is the totality of real things. True human selfhood is divine. That's principle 1. That's principle 2 from unity. Divine thought is a force for good. Sickness originates in the mind. That's Charles and Myrtle Fillmore could have quoted this. And right thinking has a healing effect. That's Google. Although New Thought, and this is the part that I love the best, although New Thought is neither monolithic or doctrinaire, what that means is everybody who calls themselves New Thought, we're not all on exactly the same page. We have unity, we have science of mind, we have divine science, we have, I can't even think of all the rest of them. We have the people who follow Ralph Waldo Emerson. We have the people who follow Henry David Thoreau. We have the people who follow all these great thinkers through the ages. I happen to subscribe to the belief that we don't belong to New Thought. We don't follow New Thought. It's really old thought. Because I think this is really what Jesus did. This is the kind of stuff that Jesus was talking about. Although New Thought is neither monolithic nor doctrinaire. And doctrinaire means we don't have a book. The Mormons have the Book of Mormon. The Muslims have the Quran. We don't have a book. We don't have a set of a doctrine. You have to memorize these 1 through 10, and then you get the key to get in. That's it. We don't have that. Modern day adherents share some common beliefs. God, or infinite intelligence, is supreme, universal, and everlasting. Principle number 1. Number 2, divinity dwells within each person, and that all people are spiritual beings. Unity principle number 2. And thirdly, and this is the part that gets exciting, this is where the rubber hits the road. This is what New Thought is all about. Our mental states are carried forward into manifestation and become our experience in daily living. Mental states, positive, uplifting, wonderful. Mental states, depressing. Oh, I feel terrible today. My life is rotten. My relationship is not good. So whatever mental state you're in, it becomes our experience in daily living. So that's the Google machine. I want to share with you a story that really is a wonderful manifestation of that principle of clear thinking and right thinking. And it's in the Bible. It's the book of John. And it's a story I'm sure you've heard since you were a little kid. It's the story of Lazarus and the raising of Lazarus from the tomb. And I'm going to share it with you through the eyes of somebody who's going to look at it metaphysically. It's a different translation, just a little bit. So you know the story. You know the general story. Lazarus was the brother of Mary and Martha. Lazarus died. They put him in a tomb. Jesus came, opened the tomb, healed him. He walked out, raised from the dead. End of story. But it's much more interesting than that. It's much more fascinating. Jesus was sitting in Bethany, which is about 2 miles away from Jerusalem. And they ran up to him, Mary and Martha ran up to him and said, Lazarus is sick. Lord, the one you love is sick. Just that sentence. Let's look at that sentence. The one that you love, the one that you know who he is. You know the truth about him. You know the truth that he is a child of God, that he is a spirit being, created just like all of us, has the power of the connection with God just like all of us. Jesus loved Lazarus. He knew Lazarus. He knew everything about him. He knew all that he needed to know about Lazarus. Lazarus, the one you love, is sick. Now this is the part that's fascinating. What did Jesus do? Did he run and grab all of his disciples and scramble and pack his bags and say, okay, let's go, woo, and he runs off to Lazarus? That's not what he did. He said, thank you, appreciate it. And he sat where he was for 2 days, did nothing. Well, did nothing. He didn't pack his bags and run to where Lazarus was. He just stayed where he was for 2 days. And if you Google, why did he sit for 2 days? What was he doing? The answer is not really clear. But if you look at it metaphysically, it all starts to make sense. What happens when somebody rushes up to you and says, oh my God, there's an emergency, quick, you gotta get, there's this horrible thing happening, let's go. If you are willing to step back, take your time, understand the circumstances, get your connection with God, get your connection with your higher power, take a breath, meditate on the truth of the situation. What's the real story going on here? And then approach the situation wisely. That's what Jesus did. He took 2 days to take off and go to where Lazarus was. Well, then he starts to walk up to where Lazarus is, the tomb, where all this hubbub is happening. And you can just imagine all of these people are walking up to Jesus and starting to snip at his heels and they're starting to whine at him. Oh, if you'd only been here 3 days ago, if you'd only been here 2 days ago, maybe you could have saved Lazarus. Maybe you could have saved Lazarus. Jesus tells his followers, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, and I'm here to wake him up. But everybody that he comes across says, oh, if you'd only been here 2 days ago, we could have saved him. You're the guy who made the blind man be able to see, right? Well, how come you couldn't be here a couple of days ago? Because then you could have really helped Lazarus. Blah, 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 blah. And Jesus just tunes them all out until he gets to the tomb. And he says, didn't I tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? He told him to remove the stone. Here's where it gets so juicy. He told him to remove the stone. And then he looked up. He looked up. Metaphysically, it's so perfect. He looked above the situation. He saw the truth of the whole situation. He knew who Lazarus was. He knew what the connection was with the higher power, with the God energy, with the universal energy, as he does with you. As each one of you does. If you're willing to look up, look above the problem, look above the situation and see what the truth is. What's the real connection here to the universal divine? That's what Jesus did. He looked above. He looked up. And then he said, thank you, Father. Thank you. Thank you for what's happening today. Thank you for everything that you do. And then he looked into the tomb and he said, Lazarus, come out. He saw in his brain, he saw the truth about Lazarus. Now see, I see the story that we're talking about here is how we're all bound up. How Lazarus was bound up. How Lazarus his mind was in that typical human, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that and I'm sick and I'm not in good shape and blah, blah, blah. He was not able to see the truth about himself. And Jesus saw that and Jesus called Lazarus out. And Lazarus walked out of the tomb and he was all bound up with the bandages. And the very next thing Jesus says is, loose him and let him go. Take the binds off. Take the bindings off so you can make your connection with your higher power, so you can see the truth about what the universe, I believe that the universe is so much in our favor. We have an in with this incredible divine source. It's like we have The universe is working in our favor. We come to this place fully loaded. It's primed to have us march forward and to just be absolutely the best that we can possibly be. The universe wouldn't put us here. Our higher power wouldn't put us on this planet unless the absolute best path was laid in front of us. But so much of the time we blind ourselves and we get bound up with all of this not high thinking. And that's what happened to Lazarus, in my opinion. Steve Harvey has become my new hero. How's that for a switch? Steve Harvey does a lot of motivational talks. And he says, you can go out and you can buy all sorts of motivational books, tapes, CDs. There's thousands of them. There's hundreds of thousands of them. You can go fill your library full of that stuff. But probably every person in this room, and I would bet every person in this room, and every one of you out there watching, don't lie to me, I know this is true. I can't wait to see that. Has a book on your bookshelf, probably covered with dust. It's called the Bible. It is the most amazing, inspirational book you can imagine. Galatians chapter 6. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. For whatever one sows, so shall one reap. If your thoughts are, oh God, I have to tell you this. I go to the gym, I work out in the gym, I know you can tell. I was in there changing, and there was this fella who was, down the bench from me. Good-looking guy, probably 65 years old, silver hair, dressed really well, and he was getting his stuff out of his locker, and he was really, you could just see, it looked like he had just gotten off a horse for the last, 3 days. He was, oh. And I said something to him. I said, my gosh, I almost wanted to go grab him and say, are you okay? Can I get you a walker or something? And the thing that he said to me was so profound. He said, when you get older, your knees start to go. Wow! Listen to what his thoughts, listen to the things he's saying. Well, yeah, of course your knees are going. Imagine that. Why not wake up in the morning and say, my joints are all incredibly soft and youthful and lubricated, and I am just ready to rock and roll. Just imagine if he said that every morning. Now, is it going to make a great difference? Is he going to go out and run a marathon? I don't know. But for whatever one sows, so shall one reap. Do not judge by appearances, but with right judgment. Doesn't matter what you see. It doesn't matter what you see. You have to really be able to look above like Jesus did. Look above and really see the truth. See the divine truth of the situation that you're looking at. I want to share with you a story. Karen is my sweetheart. And Karen is from New Jersey. Anybody who's an East Coaster will appreciate this. She don't take no crap from nobody. And she loves to cook. She's a health fanatic. Loves to shop at Trader Joe's. Does the Whole Foods thing. Not only does she love to shop, she loves to cook. And she is amazing. The food that I eat, I've been eating this incredible organic stuff. By the way, organic is the Latin word for twice as expensive. It's true. So she does it. She's a wonderful cook. She's a wonderful shopper. And we made an agreement. The agreement was, in our house, we're going to draw a line around the kitchen. Everything in the kitchen is your responsibility. I'll stay out. The rest of the house is mine. I'll vacuum. I'll do windows. I'll clean the air filters. I'll mop the floors. I'll do the bathrooms. I'll scrub the toilets. I'll do everything. You take care of the kitchen. You clean the kitchen, right? You make a mess. You clean it up. Clean the countertops. Clean the floor. Pile of dishes. I'll do my own dishes, but if you make a mess, you clean it up. Well, after a few weeks, months, I kind of felt like that agreement that we had was being abused. She has this tendency when she wipes the kitchen countertops down just kind of rearranging the muck. She gets a sponge and she just kind of smears it around so you don't see the big clumps, it's just evenly distributed. And you wipe your hand across the countertop, it's like, oh my God. Well, one day I had the brilliant idea that I was going to bring this up to her and tell her that I felt like she was remiss in her responsibilities and that she was kind of bucking the system and not respecting the agreement that we made. Wow. So she came home that day and we sat down at the kitchen table and we have this thing where we sort of say, let's talk about the daily business, you know, that kind of thing. And the time was right, and I brought up the business of the kitchen countertop. I said, honey, I got to tell you, I got to talk to you about something. I'm really kind of, I'm concerned that you're reneging on your part of the responsibility of cleaning the kitchen because of the countertops aren't, you know, it's reflective of everything that's going on in the kitchen, but especially kind of, she erupted. She slammed her fist down on the table, and she stood up screaming, and she started to cry, and she called me a counter-Nazi. Called me a counter-Nazi. I don't even know what that is. Oh, she was so upset. She was very, very upset. And we both started to cry, and this whole energy thing was popping and popping. And eventually it got to the point, because we're both at that stage in our relationship and in our connection with the divine source and this whole new thought thing, where we don't preempt issues like that, but we're willing to work through them together. And we sat down on the sofa and we're bawling and crying, and the truth is, I mean, really the truth is, the clear and higher thought pattern for me would be, you know, I am somebody who's orderly in my life. I am somebody whose life is organized and it works so well for me, and I love the things that I do in my life. And everything is exactly the way I want it to be. Well, that isn't exactly how I saw things that day, and because that isn't how I live my life, damn it, I'm going to have order in my house, so I'm going to have the kitchen clean. You follow what I'm saying? If I'm not doing this and I feel like I'm falling short on this end, it's like I'm going to make sure that this part of my life is in order. Well, she was kind of the same way. You know, her higher thought would be, I'm an incredible adult woman, and I'm prosperous, and my life is in order, and I love the work that I do, and people love the work that I do. People love me for the work that I do. But that's kind of not what happened in the kitchen. What happened in the kitchen was she didn't want to be told, like an 8-year-old, to clean up her mess. Oh, you know, finally after hours, maybe it was about a half an hour, we kind of settled down. We came to a resolution, and the resolution is that I'm cleaning the kitchen countertops from now on. But I got my point across. In the daily word today, when I'm experiencing illness or pain from the injury, I may forget that wholeness is my natural state of being. As I focus on symptoms, the feeling of illness or injury may go stronger. As I focus on the things that aren't working in my life, the order and the things that I want to do in my life aren't happening, so what do? I focus on the kitchen countertop. When the truth really has nothing to do with the kitchen countertop. I noticed that you're having a prosperity class coming up. Has anybody in here ever done Mary Morrissey's work? Yeah. Oh, perfect. I've done Mary Morrissey 1, 2, and 3. I've done them all. I've done them all many times. And I got to tell you, if the opportunity ever arises, like the one that's coming here, you have to do it. The prosperity, they call them prosperity classes, but really, listen to me. Listen to me. They're not prosperity classes. They're Unity 101, New Thought classes. Sounds like prosperity, but you know what? If you live the right life, if your thoughts, if your brain is working on that right, understanding the universe and sending the message out the way you want the message to be sent out, you can't help but be prosperous. And when I say prosperous, I don't mean big fat checks coming in. I keep having this picture in my mind. I'm sure you've all seen it. Think National Geographic. You're thumbing through this magazine of National Geographic, and it happens to be the issue where some explorer went and visited Papua New Guinea. Okay, picture that. And there's this picture of this guy, chubby little guy with a bone in his nose and the weird hair thing and the paint on his face, sitting under a big broad-leafed tree out in the middle of the wilderness, out in the middle of the jungle, and he's got his, his 2 pigs and his cow and his 2 wives, probably, and he's happy as a clam. He's got this big, silly smile on his face. He is elated. Life is grand for him. And compared to our standards, he's got nothing. But in his world, in his mind, he is just on the top of the heap. So the concept of prosperity is a really fascinating one that I'd love to have you think about. It doesn't mean money. It means health. It means relationship. It means your spiritual connection with the divine. It means what it is that you do with your life that happens to make things easy for you, if that includes an income. It's a huge concept. But if you ever have the opportunity to take those classes that they call prosperity, I really recommend that you do. Because that's what they are, they're Unity 101. Mary Morrissey is a great one. And she had this, I think it was the first series. She spends a few minutes talking about the difference between design and default. And here's what she says. She says, our brains are so amazing. Our connection with the universe is so amazing. By the way, I started to have trouble with this concept of the unity principle, thoughts are things, number 3. How is that divine? How is that godly? What you think about comes about. How is that spiritual? Think of it this way. We are made in the image and likeness of God. It says it in the Bible all over the place. We know it. Eric Butterworth? Oh, I love the nodding heads. He says, when you think of God in you, it's not like a raisin is in a bun. God is in you like the ocean is in the wave. I love that. So there is this universal energy called God, and there is this universal energy that includes all of us. And since it includes all of us, we're part of that God energy. Divine, yes, okay, lost my place there, sorry. Just for a minute, I'm back now. So since we have this incredible brain that is, as God energy does, it's always creating. If you don't guide it, because there's this intelligence up here that has to be guided. If you don't guide it, your brain is going to move forward by default. And default means it's going to pull up the old, I don't feel good today, my knees are sore, I'm in a crummy relationship, my job sucks, I don't know what to do, I've thrown a couple of pounds, I might as well eat that bag of donuts, right? That's default. That's the standby. Or when the day starts, you can design your day, your week, your month, your year, your life. You can design it. You have that choice. So Mary talks about design or default. The choice is yours. You want to think this way, or you want to amp your thought up to this way. Lastly, our friend Myrtle. What did I do with it? Here it is. Charles, is there anybody in here that's brand new to New Thought or brand new to Unity? Awesome. You?
I am.
Yeah, perfect. Back 100 years ago, 150 years ago, there was this movement which was sort of a continuation of the moving from the Dark Ages into the period of Enlightenment and then the Renaissance, and people started to appreciate science, and people started to really think of spirituality in a real practical sense. And we had, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, these are all names that were early people in the movement. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were part of that movement back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And Myrtle Fillmore, some of you may know, she was not healthy in her youth. She had tuberculosis, which back in those days was almost a death sentence. But that wasn't all. She had all sorts of other issues with her lungs and with her body. And then she found this thing called spirituality. And she really approached it in a practical, mechanical, scientific sense. Because she understood that we are an intelligent being. And intelligence, and granted to us by our higher power, intelligence needs to be guided. It needs to be moved in the right direction by design. And she says, life is simply a form of energy, and it has to be guided and directed. We communicate intelligence by thinking and talking, of course. And then it flashed upon me how I wanted to treat my body. Now listen to this. As a matter of fact, I'd be happy to tell you where I got this from. I got this from How I Found Health, the tract, How I Found Health by Myrtle Fillmore. Listen to what she says. It's chilling. She says, I told the life in my liver that it was full of vigor and energy. I told the life in my stomach that it was energetic, strong, and intelligent. I told the life in my abdomen that it was no longer infested with ignorant ideas of disease put there by myself and my doctors, but that it was all alive with sweet, pure, wholesome energy of God. I told my limbs that they were active and strong. I'm thinking about that guy in the gym. I told my eyes that they did not see of themselves, but that they expressed the sight of spirit, and that they were drawing on an unlimited source. I told them that they were young eyes, clear, bright eyes, because the light of God shone through them. I told my heart that the pure love of Jesus Christ flowed through its beatings, and that all the world felt its joyous pulsation. Imagine if you talk to your bodies that way every morning. Just imagine. I want you to take a moment right